Hey everybody, welcome to the channel. Hey guys, we're your hosts, Em and Jay, and today we're taking another look at Captain Marvel 2019. The comic book went on hiatus for a short while, along with the rest of the industry, due to the pandemic, and the hiatus really exposed a lot of the problems with the comic book industry. Being away from comic books for a few months, and then coming back just makes the problems in the writing so much more glaring. Regardless, they recently released issues 17 and 18 of Captain Marvel, and it's basically more of the same. This series just doesn't have very strong plots or characterization, even though it does have potential, but the writing just isn't where it needs to be. The last arc was about Carol supposedly turning evil and killing all the Avengers, but that turned out to be a fake out, and it turned out she was actually blackmailed and was just killing clones the entire time, and they never bothered to explain who was cloning the Avengers and for what purpose. Now we get issue 17, which is a filler issue between the clone arc and the Empyre tie-in arc, which starts in issue 18. They could have used that filler issue to transition between the two arcs, but instead they just had a girls' night out, where very little is actually accomplished. I get it's filler, but they could have used this time to benefit the story more. We saw the same problem with issues 11 and 12, where there was no transition between the Star arc and the evil Carol arc. It was weird because the Star arc was all about Carol trying to win over the population, since they didn't trust her after finding out she was half Kree, and they thought she could be a threat to them. But then in the clone arc, Carol goes around killing the Avengers, and the wider population doesn't know that they're clones. But they never bothered to connect anything to the previous arc, even though that would have made sense. And now we're still getting a lack of explanation and awkward transitions in this issue. They could have told us about what was up with the clones, or they could have used this issue to transition to the Empyre arc. But no, we just get to hang out with them on a girls' night out. The cover for issue 17 has Captain Marvel and Wolverine teaming up ready for a fight, which would be pretty exciting, except nothing like that happens in this issue. At least Wolverine actually shows up in this comic. There was a time when he was on the cover of everything, even if he wasn't actually in the book. It turns out Carol is having a game night with the girls, and Wolverine for some reason. I guess he's one of the girls. They're drinking and gambling, but then Ms. Marvel shows up. Apparently Carol forgot that she's a minor and also Muslim, so it was a real oversight to invite her to a night of gambling and drinking. I get that people make mistakes, but how did Carol forget all that? So Ms. Marvel decides that they should all go to an escape room instead. Apparently there's this really popular place that's booked for months. Ms. Marvel convinces the escape room to cancel everybody else for the night, even though they've been waiting for months, because she and her friends are superheroes, which isn't very cool, using her hero status to cut in line. We then see the villain of this issue, the owner of the escape room. He's running a very successful business, yet he's spending his time arguing with people online. I guess he's supposed to be some kind of stereotypical angry nerd character, because he's glued to his computer in a dark room, surrounded by a bunch of merchandise. One of his employees comes in and says that there's a group that wants to come tonight, which he laughs off because they're booked for months in advance, but the employee tells him that it's apparently Miss Marvel, although she can't tell if she's lying. He gets really excited and says to let them come in, and if it does turn out to be a lie, they'll just turn them away. But they would end up losing business if that's the case, because the people who were supposed to come that night got kicked out. I hope they make it up to those people, cause I'd be pretty upset if I made a reservation months in advance only to get kicked out at the last second. He also sends all his staff home, and I don't know if that's a smart idea. I don't really know all that goes into running an escape room, but I imagine it would be good to have a few more people on hand just in case. They meet the owner, who excitedly introduces himself as the Nexus. He's a bit too eager to meet them though, so it's probably a trap. Wolverine doesn't really want to be there, so he tries to sneak away, but Carol catches him and she berates him like he's her child. He begrudgingly enters with the others, and says that he should get married so he can have an excuse to not go out. They get locked in, but Wolverine notices something strange about the room. It turns out the room is made of vibranium, and he thinks it's a trap, so the room immediately starts filling with water, and Logan decides to just claw his way out instead of trying to figure out some kind of puzzle to escape. But it turns out that not only is this room made of vibranium, but a special kind called Antarctic vibranium, so he can't cut through it. Antarctic vibranium is extremely rare and expensive, so how did some rando get so much of it? How does he have access to this kind of material and money? On top of that, it causes other metals to melt, including Wolverine's adamantium, so how is this building still standing? This is a lot for a one-off villain. Anyway, Carol tries to blast her way through, but it doesn't work. Her blasts just end up ricocheting back, and it hits Jennifer in the face, cracking her helmet. Stress causes her to lose control of her powers, so she starts to panic. Carol tries to keep her calm while Monica decides to go intangible and try to unlock the door from the outside. Unfortunately, once she gets out of the room, she can't control her powers anymore. For some reason, she can't become tangible again, but she can when she gets back into the room. They're all pretty much stuck, so Miss Marvel suggests they work together, since that's the point of an escape room. So they come up with a plan where Carol, Jess, and Monica blast the door, while Logan and Kamala cover Jennifer. Their plan works and they bust out, so now they can confront the bad guy, who for some reason is just hanging out there. You'd think he would have moved to a different location, maybe watch everything happen on screens or something, you know, to reduce the chance of getting caught. Now that he's cornered, he claims he just wanted to get their attention, and he uses mind control powers on them, which also turns Monica intangible, so he must have been using it on her earlier. So Hazmat attacks him because she's had enough. He claims that he doesn't know why he has these powers. Apparently he's not a mutant or an Inhuman, and he apparently just wanted them to notice him for 15 minutes. This doesn't make any sense. This guy's a successful businessman, and he threw all that away for 15 minutes of recognition? And for what? He tried to kill them. I guess he didn't think it would work, but why would he throw his whole life away for this? He's not all that skilled with his mental powers, so he can't control them all at once. So he's not really a threat at this point. So Captain Marvel has him hauled away to the raft, which he's unrealistically excited about. His life is over, and it looked like he had a really good life, but he's over the moon about this. I just find it so hard to believe. Being put in so many physical and mental restraints and dragged away to some dark cell in a super prison is any way better than the life he already had. Just for 15 minutes of recognition? How is it in any way worth it? The heroes seem to believe that he might have been doing this to other people, but we didn't really see any evidence of that. That would need an investigation, and if so many people are coming that it's booked for months in advance, it must be really popular, so people must like it. But I guess he's a bad guy, so we should just assume? I don't think this character got enough development for us to really understand him, but I also don't think he was meant to. It makes me wonder what the purpose of this character actually is, because I highly doubt we're gonna see him again. Tom's been missing since issue 5, and there's no sign of him ever coming back, and he was the most developed character of this series. I actually feel like this character's real purpose is so Marvel can vent about people who are critical of their comics online, since he encompasses so many stereotypes about the angry nerd character. With the exception of being a successful businessman, he pretty much has all the other stereotypes. He spends too much time sitting in the dark, glued to his computer, arguing with people online, surrounded by all his merchandise, and he really only wants attention, because these companies are convinced they only get criticism because people are looking for attention online, and not because maybe there's areas that they could improve on. Honestly, this is the only explanation I can think of, because in order to run a successful business, it takes a lot of time and energy and focus, and I don't see how he can run an escape room when he's so focused on this other stuff. Like, he risked the possibility that these weren't the actual superheroes and someone was just pulling a prank, or trying to cut in line, and turned away paying customers that had waited months, who are probably not going to be happy about being turned away, and could give him bad reviews, which would affect his business. But he was so obsessed with trying to get 15 minutes of attention that he took that risk. Not to mention, it probably would be bad for business if people died at his attraction, even if he could somehow pass it off as an accident. This was just a no-win situation for him, especially since it must have taken him so much to get his business to this point. So it's like they just took their frustrations about online critics and put it into their book as a one-dimensional filler villain. The issue ends with everybody deciding to go to a trivia night instead, and it ends on a joke about Captain America's butt, but we don't know what the question was they were answering, so I guess we'll just have to imagine it. So this issue ends on this silly joke, but then the next issue starts with Carol being the new accuser after Ronin, and we're in the middle of a galactic war between the Kree and Skrull, who have teamed up to form this massive empire, and they're fighting the Kotati. I get this is a shared universe with a bunch of tie-in comics, but the transition in this series didn't have to be so jarring. It's safe to assume that there are people who aren't going to be picking up every issue of this event. Maybe they're only reading a few series, only to randomly get thrown into the middle of a totally different storyline. And if you want an explanation, you have to go and buy all these other books, which may be their goal, but it's just annoying. Issue 17 added nothing to the overall plot, even though there's still so much missing from it, and having some downtime between two major arcs would be the perfect opportunity to flesh out the story. So it's a real missed opportunity. There are already loose plot threads like Sam being kidnapped by his abusive father and never being seen again. They should really do something about that. But those were our thoughts. What did you guys think? Have you been reading the Empyre event? And what do you think of it? Because personally, it doesn't interest us at all. Anyway, thanks for watching. We really appreciate it. Shout out to our members, Caleb Nelson, Stutania, Tyrant Carnivore, Adam K, Shiny Orc Boy, Taylor Ramirez, The Rabbit Mancer, Dash Hound, and Haley Kosheva. If you'd like to become a member, you can hit the join button next to the subscribe button. And if you enjoyed this video, you can leave a like and subscribe to the channel to see more content like this. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you all next time. Bye everyone. Bye guys.